Alright, my name's Luke and I'm just doing a short video about my Megasquirt 3 project. This is going on to a 440 big block that'll utilize a Edelblock ProFlow XT. It's an LS tunnel ram style intake. And I'm going to use a 36-1 Hall effect trigger wheel mounted to the front pulley, as well as using a Jeep 4-liter cam sensor and adapter bushing to pick up a cam signal, so that way I can run a fully sequential coil on plug and for ignition and full sequential injection. This box was a put together box. It cost about 450 bucks for the MS3X setup, all in one. Takes about 6 hours to solder together if you're competent and skilled with electronic soldering. You definitely have a quality soldering iron with a very small tip that'll make your life a hell of a lot easier. So you don't want to be accidentally, dragging solder across multiple pins and then arcing this thing out the minute you fire it up. These are the GymStem and the GymStem X connectors. Now, what they do is allow you to do full tests on all the inputs and outputs of this system. They're pretty cool. And how you hook this up, the GymStem, properly is you got to take this green wire here, goes to a pin that's labeled 5 volt. It's also pin number 26, I believe, and it goes to the 5 volt pin on this board. What that actually does is power up the LEDs and allow them to function on the GymStem. And this one's the secondary cam signal. It goes to the first pin to the second cranking signal pin on the GymStem. So not too bad. They're labeled. Also, that's the same thing with the whole board. Everything's labeled, so there'll be a little like a silk screen on the board with a number for it, and that number will correspond to the manual that you can download offline. It's in full color, and the board and the manual will show you which way the positive and negative ends of diodes need to go, and which way a capacitor needs to be put in properly. So take your time with that, don't rush, but it doesn't like throw a shit ton of, it's step by step. It doesn't throw a crap ton of things at you at once, which is great. So it's really easy to navigate through the instructions and do this. I'm using, again, I said a 36-1 wheel, so I had to put this number 3 pin to the up position. I left all the other pins so far alone, and this is basically, I'm going to simulate ignition. I also got the power supply, which is like 11 or 12 bucks, that plugs right in. So you could also use a 9 volt. So I'm going to turn it on, and you'll notice that this power light comes on, and then this flashed over here. That's actually simulating the fuel pump prime. So the output for the fuel pump is working from the computer. And these two dials are your RPM. One's for really fine adjustment, which I won't really be using, and then there's a coarse one. So what I can do is start turning it till you'll notice it picks up a signal. So it's picking up a signal at approximately 150 RPM, maybe 125. It says that it's cranking on the Tuner Studio, and full RPM synced, and 0 loss sync counters. Now if I turn that up a little bit more, you're going to notice the engine speed gradually picking up till it says that it's idling. So, and down here on this, you'll notice that it's doing a steady sweep of the LEDs. And if I turn it up, you'll see it keeps sweeping up and sweeping up harder and harder until it almost becomes solid at this point. And as I get closer to the rev limit, you're going to notice the row that's for the, I have a spark cut select on my rev limiter. Once I get to the point where I hit that rev limiter, it goes to a soft touch for 150 RPM, and then it goes right out. So at this point, it's cut all spark to the engine. Now I'm back into the soft touch. Now I'm back to just full spark and injectors. Now, the reason I didn't use the injector cut at that RPM yet is simply because I didn't want things to run lean. You might have a couple of stray sparks or even a little bit of high-end, something could detonate from just the sheer heat. So it's better to have the fuel in there and keep things cool, or cool things off, than have them be hot. And now I'm just turning the RPM back down to normal, and I'll show you the rest. So this one here is for manifold air temperature, which I have selected, pulled up here. I can run that through manifold air temp. I have the coolant temp also dial down here, which is next to the mat sensor on the GymStem. I can sweep that. The throttle position sensor can sweep. And you'll also notice the ignition. So as I run, I already pre-built my ignition table based off the distributor that was in the car. So I have all the full timing in by about 3,000 RPM at about 36 degrees. And I just shut it off. Also, there's a sweep there for my O2 widebands to simulate. You can simulate a closed loop setting. It can also simulate a wideband style sensor with the gym stem. So it's pretty cool. You'll also notice it tells me the voltage system that's going through, so you can also keep track of what voltage your system's putting out. Barometric correction is something because I'm going to run 2 map sensors on my system, so it'll auto correct via the auto tune. If I go up in elevation, I want to keep track of that. And loss sync counter, where I turned it off accidentally, that dropped the sync, so it counts that. If you see that going up while the engine's running, it means you probably have a bad connection either to the crank sensor or the crank sensor itself, or you might not have the air gap for the crank sensor set correctly. Like I said, part of the reason I went with this system is just the price is really reasonable. All told, with 8-foot pre-made harnesses that are fully labeled, each wire what the wire is supposed to be for, and everything. So that was the 2 of those, all of this, you're talking under $900. It's reasonably well priced. You could have saved even more money if I got put together boards instead of a kit board for these, but I just didn't want a chance that I would put one of them together wrong because they're for testing the equipment itself. And you can see it just sits there happy, no problems. As far as system-wise, this system does have auto-tune and stuff like a Holly, and it works just as good. You just got to know where to look, what it's called, and basically that auto tune, it's there to help you, it's not there to save your life. So but it does work really great. So that's everything I got on my project for today. Have good luck with yours.